Hi, good afternoon. In this video, we're going to be creating like a backing plate, only it's not a backing plate. It's going to be 17 layers of fiberglass with polyester resin. We're prepping this area for the installation of a 1-inch Graco hull valve. So let's get started. Today we're making a pad to put a hull valve on. So our first step is to take a paper plate, and I cut it originally at 8 inches, and then each circle was a ½ inch smaller, so I was cutting off about 1/4 of an inch. That gives me decreasing circles that I then traced on my 2-ounce mat and my 17-ounce biaxial. Then I'll cut each one of those out. I used a compass to draw my circles, just a cheap, where is it? It's over here. Just a cheap compass from the dollar store. And when you're cutting fiberglass, you're going to want a good pair of scissors. Not necessarily expensive, but the proper ones. These Milwaukee, if you look close on this edge, maybe it won't come in close enough, it has a grooved edge on this blade that has the inch marks on it. Those grooved edges catch the fiberglass so it doesn't slip. Serrated won't work, just a regular pair of scissors, they slide along the edge and you're not going to get a nice clean cut, and they'll wear out a lot faster. As you can see here, I've got a pretty good stack of fiberglass. Now, your key is not necessarily making a great big thick pad. Your key is a gradual transition from the hull to where your valve is. I'll probably end up with between a ½ inch and a 3/4 inch layer of glass when I'm finished. So my next step is going to be to center all these out. I'll put a pin through it to hold them center. Then we'll wet them out and put them on the hull. When you're cutting these, I always start with a matte layer and I end with a matte layer. Actually, at the top I end with 2 matte layers. You're going to want to have a matte next to the hull, and if you have matte at the top, a couple of layers of it, it gives you some area, some thickness for sanding, because you're going to want this flat to put your valve on it. You're going to want to square with the hull and flat with the bottom of the valve, and I'll show you how to accomplish that later in this video. You can see I've marked the place on the hull with a marker. Don't forget to wear your protective gear when you're sanding fiberglass, otherwise you're going to itch for the next 3 days. We're going to grind that down with a 36 grit on my 4½ inch grinder. I always use a new one when I'm grinding on the hull. That'll give me a good bite for my fiberglass. Now, I could have used a 17-ounce woven roving, but I had more biaxial than I have roving, and besides, the roving is just going to make a thicker pad, not necessarily stronger. So let's get our gear on and grind that spot on the hull. Okay, so there's our patch. I've already got it glassed in place. I'm sorry I didn't show the layup. Since I don't have a head cam, it's kind of hard to hold my tablet while I'm filming. I don't have a tripod either. That's 16 layers, 17 layers, plus a peel ply layer on top, which we'll pull off tomorrow. Here's the valve. It's a 1-inch Graco valve, round base. This is my valve of choice. You notice the fittings on the side of it. Those are 1/8 pipe plugs. As per Graco, they're designed to be pulled out, put Zerk fittings in it, fill it full of 111 grease, Dow 111 grease, and then put the plugs back in. That fills the void, prevents any water intrusion, and also lubricates the valve. Okay, so Why did I use polyester instead of epoxy? Yes, epoxy resin is much stronger. It's also more expensive. But look at it this way. Your boat's made of polyester. It's good enough for boat building. Why not keep adding on to it? If you need an extra layer, put an extra layer. For general purpose laminating, polyester resin is fine. Even in structural members, polyester resin is fine. I don't want to have to keep track of where I have epoxy patches. I just don't want to do that. When I built my rudder, and I'll show some pictures of that later on in another video, I did the entire rudder out of carbon fiber and epoxy, but that's a specialty high stress member, and that was the best choice of resin. But for general laminating on the boat, even for high stress members, sorry for the background, I got Spotify going in my ear. I'll turn it off. For general purpose laminating, even high stress members, chain plates, putting them in, if you get a good prep and do all your laminations properly and get plenty of especially on a chain plate, you have plenty of length, there's no reason why you couldn't put those in with polyester as well. Okay, that's it for today. Tomorrow we'll pull off the peel ply and see what we got. I already pre-drilled a hole through the hole so I know where center is on the outside. I'll use a portable drill press so that I know I'm drilling square into the boat, and then I'll show you how I face it off both inside and out so I have a square flat surface to put the valve on.